Type 2 Hero by Mad Nimrod. Chapter 11 Presentation and Competition. Friday afternoon, day before the sports festival. The various students of Class 1C were in high spirits. They had finished their final set of exercises and were on their way home. Most of them had already left, but a few were still on the UA grounds, cleaning up and grabbing a few things. Among these students were Izuku, Gakushu, and Sakai. You sure you got everything this time? Izuku laughed, as they were finally making their way to the changing rooms. Positive, the rotund Gakushu sighed. Sorry for making you come back 3 times to hell. Meh. Sakai would have shrugged if he had shoulders. Wasn't a problem. My excitement for tomorrow removed any exasperation I may have had over this. Same. Izuku smiled. True. I'm not gonna be working with you, but I've got another role. What will you be doing anyways? Gakushu asked, only to be met by Midoriya smiling and holding a finger over his mouth. Oh, you butt. The 3 boys laughed as they walked, but stopped when they heard a grunting noise. After a few moments, they figured out it was coming from the weight room. Someone still working out? Sakai asked. Let's go see, Gakusho said as he approached the door with Izuku. The smaller boy pulled the door open and the 3 students stepped inside. They didn't see anyone at first, but the grunting persisted. Hello? Izuku called out. In here, a familiar voice called from further in. Todoroki-san? Izuku voiced as the 3 boys entered. Still working out? Not me, the dual quirk boy replied. As they got closer, Izuku realized the grunting sounded feminine. The Gened boys turned the corner to a side alcove and saw the source of the noise. All their jaws dropped, and Sakai is outright unhinged, when they saw it was Uraraka lifting weights, with Todoroki spotting for her. What was surprising about this was just how much she was lifting. Reading the numbers he could see and counting the weights on the bars, combined with the weight of the bar itself. 225 kilograms? Izuku stuttered. She's not even using her quirk, Todoroki pointed out. At that point, all 3 Gen Ed students knew their class really had their work cut out for them. Alright, so just to let you know that the author did provide a visual here, and it's honestly a really great visual. I recommend you click the link so you can find the visuals that'll be throughout the rest of this series, but I'll let you know when there is one. Having said that, let's continue. Saturday morning. The day of the sports festival dawned bright and clear. Class 1C was waiting with the other general education classes to be called out. They were more excited than nervous, all feeling eager to get started. This was partly due to the event itself and partly due to what Izuku told them before he left the class. Looking around, it became clear they were the only ones who seemed excited. Got a bit of a mopey crowd with us, Sakai whispered. Find more cheer in a morgue. Hojo chirped as she licked 4 lollipops at the same time. Why should we be cheerful? One student whined. We're just fodder for the hero courses to beat. Oh my god, Gorogoro groaned. Who the hell spotted your hot dog this morning? Quiet! Kagero pointed at the speakers. It's getting started. Good morning, listeners! President Mike's voice roared from the PA system. Can I get a yeah? Oh, that was bad. Excuse me. Even from the waiting room, Class 1C could hear the cheer from the crowds. Rock on! Welcome to the UA Sports Festival, the biggest event in all of Japan. Today, we'll see our youngest and newest students, hero and otherwise, strut their stuff and make their mamas proud. The crowd cheered even more, bringing a laugh out of President Mike. Awesome crowd today, and even more awesome is our special guest for the day's events. Normally, we have a fellow teacher up here with me, but today we got a student whose analytical skills are so awesome that Principal Nezu himself took this kid on as a personal student. Say hello to UA's resident quirk specialist, Midoriya Izuku of Class 1C. Hello. Izuku's meek voice called out from the speakers. His classmates gave a roaring cheer of their own when they heard this, getting a derisive glare from some of the other Gen Ed students. Just a second, y'all. I need to take a drink. That's what I'm talking about! Without further ado, let's bring out the contestants, starting things off with the hero class that fought the villains their first week. Class 1A, Heroics. More like Class 1A Twats, the student from earlier muttered. Several other students groaned, but Moriboshi was the picture of calm as she quietly froze his feet to the floor. After a few moments, Class 1B was called out, then. Following our hero course classes is our esteemed general education course. Let's start with the class that actually came and supported Class 1A during the villain attack. The class where each student is strong as any hero student. Let's give it up for Class 1C. The doors opened and Class 1C marched out, followed by the other general education courses. Except for one kid, Moriboshi froze to the floor. A few of the students winced as they stepped into the sunlight and found themselves dumbstruck. It was one thing to see the sports festival stadium from a television. It was something entirely different actually standing in it. The stadium was large enough to hold thousands of people, and each seat was filled. They should have felt nervous, but Class 1C was actually feeling excitement. They were here. They were standing where so many legends once stood, and they were going to show off their stuff. There they are! Kamui Woods roared as he pointed down at Class 1C from the stands. Oh wow! Midnight, you weren't joking when you said you had a fat kid in your class. I never said that! Kayama Nimuri laughed as she reached over and smacked Kamui upside the head. You hearing this guy, Inko-san? He's calling your son's friend fat. Inko just laughed from her seat between the two heroes, watching them playfully mess around. Inko remembered the previous night when she heard these two had taken a day off for the sole purpose of bringing her to the festival. She would have been alright just watching it from home, but she couldn't refuse them after everything they did to get her VIP seats. Even if Izuku himself wasn't competing, his friends were, and she was happy to see them. Alongside Melissa, Izuku's classmates had occasionally visited their humble abode over the past few weeks, and Inko was glad to meet every one of them. As the last of the management course students arrived on the field, Inko had a thought.
Kaya-chan,
She addressed Midnight.
aren't you usually the announcer for these events? What are they gonna do with you taking the day off?
Don't worry, the R-rated 18 hero winked.
We got this covered, Inko-san.
As Midnight relaxed in her chair, the heroine who was filling in for her took their spot in the field.
All right, everyone.
Mount Lady raised her arm as she yelled.
It's time for the Players' Pledge. Representing the first years as a whole, please step forward, Urarako Chako.
The brunette took a breath and marched forward to stand next to the pro hero as she took the microphone. Looking out over the entire first-year student body, she stood up straight.
As the first years of UA, she announced, we pledge to do our best in this festival. We pledge to go as far as we can, knowing that whenever we fail, wherever we fall, is a step further than we stopped yesterday. We pledge to complete with our heads held high, knowing we've proven ourselves worthy to walk the same halls as legends past. We pledge to compete with respect and honor befitting UA, and to any villains who might be watching.
Ochako's face turned to a determined glower as she stared right at the camera.
We pledge to face you and defeat you again and again, until you are nothing but a whispered boogeyman.
She shot her hand up.
Plus Ultra!
Plus Ultra! The crowd joined in at the end, along with most of the students. The crowd cheered as Ochako gave a relieved sigh and returned to the microphone to Mount Lady before returning to her class.
That's what I'm talking about!
President Mike cheered.
Class 1A has quite the firebrand among their peers.
You bet.
Izuku piped in.
And I think we're ready for the first event, right?
You got it, little man. Take it away, Mount Lady.
With pleasure.
Mount Lady smirked at the student body.
The first event we have lined up is, well, I guess you could call it a qualifier for later rounds. Let's see how many of you can beat the obstacle race.
As she shouted this, the words obstacle race appeared on the large screens around the stadium.
All 11 classes across the 4 courses will participate. The course in question follows the outside wall of the stadium. All in all, a 4-kilometer foot race. A meager distance for someone like me, but let's see how you kids fare.
To accentuate her point, Mount Lady grew to her full size as she shouted,
One of UA's biggest selling points is its freedom of opportunity. Stay on the course, don't gravely injure your fellow students, but otherwise, anything goes. Everyone ready?
She asked this question with a wink, blustering many who witnessed it, before turning to the gateway to the outside. With a thunderous clap of her hands, Mount Lady roared,
Begin!
And they're off!
President Mike shouted as the students rushed for the gate.
Ready to give your views, little man?
Yep.
Izuku Miki replied.
Awesome! Let's get started. Anything we should take notice of at this point in the race? Anyone you think has an advantage this early on?
One sec, y'all. I need to take a drink.
Honestly,
Izuku chuckled.
Anyone who gets through the gate quickly has the advantage here.
His statement was proven true as the mass of students got wedged in the narrow gate. Before Izuku could continue, There was a huge cloud of dust from the ground close to the Gen Ed students, followed by roaring laughter as a 5-meter-tall Asano Ryoko emerged from the cloud and rushed to the gate. She seemed a bit hunched over, but was still moving pretty fast. Alongside her was Moriboshi Ayame, sliding on a tall block of ice. And above them both, Kagero Kiana flew with her magnificent wings.
Whoa! Looks like Class 1C has an idea.
President Mike cheered. Everyone watched as Asano jumped over the students, and then jumped between the walls until emerging out the other side. Moriboshi abandoned her ice block upon reaching the gate, leaping up against the wall and creating a slide of ice above everyone's head, to move through unhindered. Kagero simply flew over everyone, dodging 1 or 2 projectiles thrown in her direction. As they emerged out the other side, the Class 1C students froze in shock at what awaited them.
Time for the first obstacle,
President Mike roared.
Robo Inferno!
Everyone present stared at the handful of robots blocking their path. Each robot was the size of a small skyscraper, and they were all staring right at the gate.
President Mike,
Izuku stuttered.
what are those?
0-pointers,
The hero laughed.
They were an obstacle during the practical portion of the hero exam. What do you think, huh?
Oh my god, I would have died.
As President Mike laughed at his co-commentator's slow wording, Moriboshi got to work freezing one of the robots to the side. Todoroki emerged from the gate and unleashed a nice attack of his own, though his attempt to cover all the robots and narrowly missing Kagero as she flew over the robots. Moriboshi deftly redirected his ice before using her quirk to tip her robot to the side, creating enough room for Asano to rush through before it fell back the other way and blocked a majority of the students.
Hey, what's this?
The loud hero asked.
Did Moriboshi just help Asano down there?
Yep,
Izuku cheerfully replied.
there's nothing in the rules that says the students can't help each other. My class worked hard to come up with ideas to support each other the best they can, for as long as they can.
The crowd actually cheered at this, enjoying the surprise turn of events. Most of the students were in a solo mindset, so seeing Class 1C working as a team at this point was nice to see. Asano kept running, hunched forward as Moriboshi surfed on ice next to her. Kagero was still above them, dodging ice from Todoroki before Moriboshi spun around and accosted him.
Still not using your fire, huh?
The ice girl asked as she conjured multiple ice weapons.
It's still up for debate,
Todoroki replied as he dodged her attacks.
Better use it soon, or you'll lose fairly quickly.
As if to prove her point, Moriboshi quickly spawned in an ice hammer, and Gulf swung it into Todoroki's stomach, sending him flying off course, and earned a pain "oh" from the crowd. Dropping the hammer, she rushed to catch up with the rest of her class.
Looks like some of Class 1C is just about at the end of the it's just about at the second obstacle. Let's see how well they handle the fall.
One sec, y'all. At President Mike's words, Kagero Kiana, who was in front, learned what he meant with such a plain name. In the middle of the track was a massive pit. It was easily 20 meters deep with water at the bottom, and over 100 meters across. Jutting up from the bottom were stone pillars connected by ropes. It was clear the students were meant to cross the ropes to reach the other side. However, it was clear whomever designed this obstacle didn't know about the Class 1C class precedent.
With an innocent laugh, she easily and quickly flew across the pit. She was quickly followed by, unexpectedly, Hatsume Mei from support chorus. Said student was cackling like a madman as she used what appeared to be rocket boots to soar over the pit.
Okay, we should have seen that one coming.
President Mike deadpan. The quietest he had spoken all morning. This time it was Izuku's turn to laugh. As Asano drew near to the pit, she did something unexpected. Without slowing down, she quickly yet carefully removed the top of her gym uniform, thankfully wearing a black tank top underneath, and just as carefully bolted it up. Using her momentum and size-augmented strength, the 5-meter student gave a roar and hurled her jacket as far as she could. It flew across the pit, narrowly missing contact with the recovered Todoroki and the skirmishing Moriboshi, before falling just short of the other side. Everyone in the audience was confused as to what she was doing, and so were all caught by surprise when a long snake body shot out of the coat and bit down on a tree root on the edge of the pit. As the coat continued to unroll, the crowd gave a roar of surprise. Sakai wasn't the only one hiding inside Asano's coat. Holding onto the snake like a rope were almost a half dozen other Class 1C students. The spiky Gorogoro and Choji, the Wookiee, were the first to climb their serpentine friend to solid ground. Following them were Oyaneku and Gakushu, the latter of whom had used his quirk to flatten himself and wrap his arm around the lanky classmate. As they climbed Sakai, Asano began the task of jumping from pillar to pillar. She narrowly made it to the other side and helped pull Sakai up before the other classes could catch up.
What a surprise!
President Mike roared.
Is that why she was hunched for the beginning portions of the race?
Again, Izuku replied.
There are no rules against helping your classmates.
Everyone watched in awe as Class 1C, a general education class, had used clever tricks to keep ahead of everyone else. The only ones who came close were Todoroki and Hatsume. Uraraka and a few others had passed the pit a bit after Asano and were now doing all they could to catch up. Uraraka did her lesson mass trick to speed up her bounds, while Ashido slid on a trail of slick acid. It initially looked like it would be a straight shot to the end, but the students soon arrived at a stretch of track with a huge sign next to it. Said sign displayed an image of an explosion with an unfortunate stick figure flying away.
Time for the last obstacle,
President Mike exclaimed.
This one's called Danger Mines. Midoriya-chan, give us the rundown.
Midoriya explained as he read from the program Mike had given him.
This one is a stretch of land with cleverly hidden mines. So some are fairly obvious, but there are a lot hidden. They're not strong enough to cause serious harm, but the explosion is still loud and strong enough to send you off course. So be careful.
Thank you, kiddo. So we all know how Kagero Kiada is gonna utterly bypass this obstacle. But how do you think the rest of your class will fare?
Honestly,
Izuku smiled as some of the students started hitting mines.
Most of them might have been at a disadvantage if not for a certain classmate.
Among the grounded students, Sakai had taken the lead. With his low-lying body and vision, he could discern where the mines were buried by seeing even the most minute bumps in the ground. He slithered quickly, weaving between the mines, and behind him ran the other lead members of Class 1C. In the very back were Asano, who had shrunk down to move between the mines, and Moriboshi, who both had their hands full of deterring other students. Todoroki himself had been proving himself quite the challenge to fend off, even if he was still only using his ice. As Moriboshi tried to pushing him and some other students back, Asano got an idea. Though he didn't say anything, Izuku recognized the face she made, denoting an evil idea. As Moriboshi wrestled with the other students, Asano got down and started digging. In no time, she pulled up one of the mines. President Mike tried to ask what she had planned, but Izuku could only shrug. Turning back to the others, Asano gave a sinister smile and slowly grew to her full size. To the shock of the audience, the mine in her hands grew with her. Suddenly it became quite clear what she had planned. With roaring laughter, Asano threw the mine hard at the ground behind her and Moriboshi. The resulting explosion was not only significantly larger than a normal mine, but the pressure detonated almost every other mine, stopping almost all of the other students, including Todoroki. With that job done, the two girls rushed for the finish line, closely pursued by Uraraka and Hatsume, who had somehow avoided the explosions.
We have our winner for the obstacle course!
President Mike cheered as Asano and Moriboshi approached the gate.
Surprising no one due to us not taking flight into account. Our first place winner is Kagero Kiana of Class 1C.
The crowds cheered as Asano and Moriboshi entered the stadium.
Holy crap! For the first time in UA's history, the majority of the top 10 winners of the obstacle course are from general education. What an amazing result!
Don't underestimate my class. Izuku chuckled as President Mike continued reading off the placements for everyone. Sakai scored second place, followed by Gorogoro, Oyaneko, Gakushu, Choji, Asano, and Moriboshi. Uraraka came in ninth with Hatsume in 10th. Due to Asano's giant mind trick, it took another 30 seconds for the next competitor to come in. Winded, chilled, and beaten up good, Todoroki narrowly took the 11th place spot before Shinso Hitoshi. The other students to come in looked just as beaten up. Though Asano didn't know it, she had set a precedent in all future sports festivals would prohibit students with growth quirks from enlarging minds.
Looks like we got a lot of injuries down there,
Mike declared.
but nothing too big. We'll take a 30-minute break so all the students can see Recovery Girl for their injuries before we read off the full results. I gotta say, that was quite the interesting event.
I know, Izuku laughed.
Looks like my class just had the overall advantage. Now to see if their luck holds.
After a half hour, Todoroki was back on the field in the stadium. His wounds weren't too severe, so there was no problem in him healing him up. The race had been surprising. He hadn't even made it into the top 10, but that's not what had his concern. His ice quirk was powerful, and he was skilled with it. That was true. What was also true was just how much better Moriboshi was with hers. He could still only use brute force tactics with his eyes. But Moriboshi was making ice weapons in the blink of an eye during that race. The awe he felt seeing her in action far outshone anything he had witnessed short of All Might himself. He still wanted to learn from her, but still wasn't sure if he could truly use his fire. Her words and Midoriya's words rang through his mind, but it felt like there was something that was stopping him. That's something that made him decide not to ignite some mental barrier he had long since forgotten. Oh, he could focus on that later. Mountain Lady was announcing the next event.
Time to choose the next second event of the festival,
The massive heroine yelled as the spinning wheel appeared on the screens. The wheels spun incredibly fast for a good 10 seconds before Mountain Lady clapped her hands, scaring away any birds in a kilometer's radius and stopping the wheel, landing on
cavalry battle.
Mountain Lady roared.
Allow me to explain the rules. This is similar to a traditional cavalry battle you may have played or seen before. The 44 winners of the obstacle race will form teams of 4 people, with 3 people carrying the rider. Each teammate will have a headband marked with a certain number of points. The goal of the battle is to score as many points as possible within the time limit by taking headbands from opposing teams. A team is disqualified if all players lose their headbands, or if the rider touches the ground. If even one player still has a headband, the entire team is still in it. Each headband is worth a number of points, depending on your placement in the obstacle race.
Huh. That was interesting. That meant that even someone who came in dead last could win if they get enough headbands. Todoroki listened to Mount Lady read off the point amounts per headband. Since he scored 11th, it was unlikely anyone would come after him, which meant he could focus on getting as many.
And so on, all the way up. The only exception is the first place ribbon, which is worth a whopping 10 million points.
Or he could focus on getting that one instead.
That's right.
Mount Lady continued.
10 million points. Almost as much as my prize-winning smile.
She gave a wink, eliciting hundreds of camera flashes before continuing.
You all have 5 minutes to choose your teams.
One sec, y'all. Gonna take a drink.
Anyone else who's not on a team before the timer runs out will be thrown together, so choose quickly.
With that in mind, Todoroki looked around for Class 1C. Perhaps he could convince them to let him join.
Oh my!
President Mike Blair.
Looks like Class 1C already made their decision.
Surprised, Todoroki continued looking around until he saw the students of Class 1C. Sure enough, they had all made their teams already. 2 teams made from the 8 students to pass the obstacle course. Wait, 8 students, enough to make 2 teams. That was way too convenient. Did they plan this? How could they have prepared for this? The second event is randomized. And Midoriya was stuck up in the commentator's booth the entire time. There was no way they could have known the second event would be a cavalry battle. Right? Ooh, suspicious. Alright, y'all. Thank you for coming and watching today's episode. The next one's going to be Songstress Deku. Also, for the next episode of this series, I'm going to try and do like an hour-and-a-half episode. So look forward to that. That'll most likely come out in a week to 2, probably 2 weeks from now, roughly. But I really thank you guys for coming and enjoying the stories with me. If you have any questions, comments, or just want to chat about the chapter, I'm do my best to respond to every comment down in the comment section below. And yeah, look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. Ciao for now.